the season or the time of day. It's more visible or closer. You feel the rays of the sun more strongly certain times of the day, certain times of the year. But God is not a planet or a star that's near to us, far to us, that we're on our axis moving toward or away from. God is always there. And so the question becomes, why do we feel disconnected? Is that coming just from my thing, or is that coming back there as well? It's to you guys as well. Sound ka kya hua bhaiya? Vinod ko phone karo. Vinod ko phone karo. उसको बोल देना कि यहीं रहो, है ना? रोज आ जाएं, यहीं रहो. We'll sort it out in a minute. They're going to go get the guy who knows how to fix the sound. In the meantime, can you hear me, or is it... You can hear it, okay. So God doesn't go anywhere. It's not that God is getting nearer to us or farther from us. What's happening is we are getting nearer or farther from God. And that which blocks us from the divine is our own mind. A lot of times what happens is we want something from God and we don't get it. And so we lose faith. We've got faith in God that God is going to do whatever I want if I'm good, if I say my prayers, if I do my puja, if I do my meditation. God will do what I want. And then things in our life happen that are not what we want. And for a lot of us, that leads us to feeling disconnected. We feel like God has forsaken me, or God is not there. But that's where you have to ask yourself, were you with God just based on what God was going to do for you? And that's where I always say, God is not a vending machine. If our relationship is just... If our relationship is just, I'm going to do what I think God wants, put in my metaphoric money into the machine, and then I'm going to get from this machine what I want, then that relationship is always going to be really superficial. It's always going to be very fragile, and it's never actually going to be deep and sustained. The way to keep a deep, sustained connection with God is to recognize that what you're getting from the relationship is the relationship itself. The moment you start wanting something from God, it's just a matter of time before you fall out of love with God. It's just like any of our relationships. If I want something from you, how you're going to speak to me, how you're going to behave, how you're going to live, the choices you're going to make. Well, when you're doing what I want, I'm in love. It's great. Honeymoon period. When you stop doing what I want, we fall out of love. It's when we say, as Pujya Swamiji always jokes, that people say, oh, you've changed. Oh, what's happened to you? You used to do all of these things I wanted, now you don't. It's where you see divorces, it's where we fall in love, out of love, because we're wanting something from the person. If all you're wanting is that person, then you don't fall out of love. And the same thing is true in our connection with God. If what we're wanting is something from God, You will get connected, you will get disconnected. You will be connected, you will be disconnected. Things go your way, you're connected. They don't go your way, you're disconnected. But if all you want is that connection, you'll hold it. It's like that beautiful story that I love of the seeker who's gone to this monastery for the meditation intensive and says to the master one day, you know, when I meditate, my mind wanders. I want to stay focused on God, but my mind wanders. What to do? And so the master takes him out to the river and holds his head under the water. 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds. And the guy finally thinks, oh my God, I'm being drowned. Starts to panic, thrashes around. Finally, just before he actually passes out, the master pulls him out of the water. And as the man is, gasping for breath, the master says, did your mind wander? He says, what were you thinking about down there? And the man says, thinking about? What do you mean? I was just thinking about air, just thinking about living, getting a breath. And the master says, when you want God, the way you wanted a breath of air, your mind will stop wandering. It's all about the sincerity and the depth of our wanting of God. For most of us, we want to want God. We know that we should want God, but actually we, on a deep, honest level, would rather have a brand new car. And so the mind is saying, meditate, focus on God, stay connected, but actually it's being pulled by bright, shiny, flashy things. Or the mind says you should want God. You should stay connected to God. But all the mind is doing is rehashing conversations we had with people. This one is rude, this one is nice, this one was hitting on me, this one was obnoxious to me. We want to want God. But actually we want the drama of this life even more. And so when you get to a place where you want God the way that a suffocating man or woman wants a breath, you'll always stay connected. And until then, stay focused on what it is that you were wanting from God, that God is not providing you, that's made you feel separate. Where have you turned God into a vending machine? What is it you were looking for you didn't get? And then shift your focus. Okay, forget it. I don't want that. I mean, you want to give it to me, great, but I don't need it. What I need more is just you. And just really stay focused on I just want God. And it'll happen. If you are prepared to let go of all of the other wants, all of the things that you think you are getting from God, and to just surrender to God, that connection will come back. Yeah, great question. Any questions anyone here has? Yes, Sajjan. Is the sound better in the back, by the way? All better in the back? Good. Okay, great.
So, my question is it okay to use creativity to outsource your problems in the world?
Is it okay to use creativity to outsource problems in the world?
Or like suppress your problems, I guess.
In what way? Outsource them in what way? Like to AI, you mean?
No, like escape your problems, I guess.
Ah, is it okay to use creativity to escape from problems? No, because then creativity becomes a drug. That's not its role. However, we need to stay charged and connected. Your mobile phone can only work if it's charged, right? If it has no battery, it's useless. Doesn't matter how expensive it is, how, iPhone 16, 17, whatever we may be up to. If it's got no battery, it's useless. In the same way, your mental, intellectual ability to solve the problems that you and the rest of the world are facing is also very much on a battery in a way. We've all experienced situations where you're really good. Maybe some of you are morning people. I know I'm a morning person. You want me to look at something that requires brain power? Give it to me in the morning. You want me on a conference call at night? I can be there physically, but I'm not going to be very creative. I'm not going to be very helpful. I'm not going to have much insight. The brain works for me much better in the morning. Some people are the opposite. Some people take forever to get started, and they are on 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. Neither is better or worse. It's just different ways of being. But what you notice is that you can only use your brain power, your mental energy, for a certain period of time before it kind of hits a wall and it needs to be recharged. Maybe it needs a good night's sleep. But I know that for me and for almost everyone I know, it's not just a matter of sleep. Middle of the day, you need time. You've been working on something for a couple of hours. You need a recharge. Whether it's a beautiful walk in the woods with some tree hugging, whether it's meditation, whether it's a cup of tea alone, quiet, or with a book, or with a loved one, whether it's reading something, writing something. But what you find is that it actually recharges you in a really powerful way. So one of the roles of creativity, and this is definitely not the only role by any means, but since you mentioned it as a way of escape, one of the roles of creativity is it makes our mind really fresh. If you've been doing homework for a while, or contemplating the problems of the universe and their solutions for a while, your brain gets tired and it doesn't function as well. And if you can take some time to paint or to draw or to write poetry or to do photography or to look at somebody else's artwork or listen to somebody else's music or read someone else's poetry, it actually freshens up the brain. So then when you go back to your homework or you go back to the problems of the world, you've got a brand new fresh brain. So you don't want to use it like a drug to escape the problems, because the problems of the world need you. We're not supposed to escape them. That's not our dharma. When you read the Bhagavad Gita, it's very clear that Bhagavan Krishna is telling us, do not escape. Stand up right here, right now, fight that war. But in the same 700 verses, he's telling us to meditate. He's telling us to love God. He's giving us all of these other teachings that are very deep and powerful spiritual teachings, but that are what you could think of as the off the battlefield stuff, right? He would certainly not say to Arjuna in the middle of the battlefield, close your eyes, right? You'll get your head blown off or arrowed off, right? Shot off. So that's not very good war strategy, to sit down and close your eyes in the middle of the battle. But even though he's giving instructions on fighting the battle, he's simultaneously telling us about meditation, about yoga, about bhakti, about wisdom, gyan, about service. So he's teaching us how to live at the times that we're not actually in the middle of the battlefield, that keep us ready and able to fight that war, to do our duty. And creativity is a really, really powerful tool in your toolbox. So again, this isn't the only reason to be creative, of course. Creativity in and of itself is a great offering and gift to the world, but it's also a wonderful way of freshening the mind, refreshing the mind, charging the battery of the mind, so that you can get back on the battlefield, whether a physical battlefield or a mental battlefield, to take care of the problems of the world. Great. Thank you. Yes.
Namaste. My name is Shobha. I am from Bangalore. Yeah, thank you. I have a question. Like, suppose someone has a life-threatening disease and that someone doesn't die, he or she recovers. Is it like because of the grace of God, or is it because he has got that ayush, he has got that longevity in his destiny, therefore he recovered? Or is it because of the grace of God he recovered? I keep wondering about this all the time.
Yeah, good question. If someone has a life-threatening terminal illness and recovers, is it God's grace? Is it something they've done? Is it their karma? It's all of that. All of that which happens to us, the disease itself, the recovery of the disease or the non-recovery of the disease, it's all made up of our past karmas, what we did in lifetimes past, but also what we've done in this lifetime. We saw during COVID, for example. Now, COVID itself was contagious. You got COVID because you were near someone who had COVID who sneezed on you, or coughed on you, or just breathed on you too closely for too long. But did you die from COVID? Or need, to be on oxygen and a ventilator in ICU? Or did you barely notice it? Right? We saw the whole spectrum. Even within the same strains of COVID. Some people are dying. For some people, it's barely like a nothing jukam, a nothing cold. Well, yeah, on some level, grace of God. Everything is grace of God. But on the other level, it's karma.
Okay.
Those who already had diabetes, who had blood pressure, who had a whole bunch of other diseases, were much more likely to be sicker and die. So if you had engaged in actions earlier in your life, due to your diet, due to a sedentary lifestyle, due to smoking, due to drinking, due to all sorts of other things, that gave you all of these other illnesses, you were much more likely to die from COVID. 2 people get the disease, one dies, one doesn't. Yes, God's grace, but a huge aspect of karma as well. Past life karma,
Okay.
but this life karma as well.
Okay.
Past life karma is going to determine where you are. I'll give you an example. Many years ago, I was in Bangkok at a large, beautiful event on Sanatan Dharma, Hindu tradition. Many revered leaders. One of the leaders was a beautiful saint named Swami Dayanandji Maharaj.
Okay.
He had an ashram in Rishikesh, but he was mostly based in Coimbatore in South India. Now this was probably 20 years ago. Coimbatore has since become a much bigger city. 20 years ago, it was a much smaller place. As we were walking into the hall, literally from the car to the hall, suddenly Swami Dayanandji Maharaj says he doesn't feel well. Looking faint. They take him to the hospital. Turns out he had a massive heart attack. But now you look, where were we in Bangkok? Less than a mile from the best heart hospital in all of Asia at that time.
Okay.
Now, he recovered. He had another good 15 years of a strong life. God's grace and his karma, of course, carried him from Coimbatore, where he likely would have died if he had the heart attack in his own ashram,
Okay.
to this place that was less than a mile from the best hospital in the world. Karma was, he had to have the heart attack,
Okay.
right? But grace and other aspects of karma came in. Where was he going to have the heart attack? At the exact same time, literally within a 1-week period, we were working at that time on building ashrams in Mansarovar and Mount Kailash. One of our teams who Pujya Swamiji had inspired to go and to do medical service and to do seva for the community was a young man from Delhi. Young, healthy, mid-20s, strong, young guy. Banks of Lake Mansarovar. He had a heart attack
Okay.
and died. Now, young, strong guy. If he had had the heart attack in Delhi, he would have been rushed to the hospital and been fine. Strong guy, healthy. But he was 4 days from the nearest hospital. They put him in the car. They tried to get him back to Kathmandu in time. He died on the way.
Okay.
Karma was the heart attack, but it also was where they were going to be. Swamiji was carried from where he would have died to where he lived.
Okay.
This young boy was carried from where he would have lived to where he died because of their karmic packages.
Okay.
Swamiji needed to live from the heart attack. This young boy's karmic journey was over. He needed to die. But he was young and strong, wouldn't have died in Delhi. So it's all of that karma, past life, this life.
Okay.
And of course, God's grace is always there. Always there. Prayer, the power of prayer, always there. The dilemma with conversations like this about God's grace is when people get sick and they don't get better, if we say it's a matter of God's grace, then the only explanation is God did not grace you. And I don't think God plays favorites. I don't think God decides to shine grace on some and not on others. So I think God's grace is there for all of us in different ways.
Okay.
Recovering from an illness is not always our highest calling.
Okay.
There are many people whose legacy is much more powerful because they died while fulfilling it than if they had lived.
Okay.
Right? There's a lot of people whose power of their message has been amplified because they died. So there's a lot of aspects that we don't necessarily know. So yes, it's God's grace, but don't think that God's grace is only live or die. You live, God's grace is with you. You die, God's grace is not with you.
Okay.
It's not like that. God's grace is always there. But we have to open ourselves to it. Sometimes people aren't open to it. The mind plays a huge role. Sometimes people are convinced they're going to die. Maybe God's grace could have saved them. Maybe even medicine could have saved them. But their mind was in such a way that they were going to die. And then you have the flip side. People are convinced, I'm not going to die from this. Miraculously, they don't. So there's a lot of factors in there, and it's really important not to blame. It's so tempting to feel like somehow you've done something right if you live and something wrong if you don't.
Yeah.
And that just isn't true. It just isn't true. There's too many other factors at play. Some people's karmic journey is just over in this life. Like they've done as much as they can do in this body, in this set of circumstances, in this life.
Okay.
They need to go on to the next birth for the next chapter. Or they're done. They've merged into God. No more need to be here in the body.
Okay.
Okay? So don't think that God graces some and not others.
Okay.
God's grace is there for everyone.
Okay. Thank you. I
Yeah,
got the
of
answer.
course.
Thank you so much.
Of course, of course. Yes. Acha, I'm so sorry. Just 1 second. We have a little rule in satsang, which is kids get to go first. So Pavitra has just raised his hand. Come, sweetie. Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. And so I'm going to just, we'll come to you afterwards, but yes. In line with the planes who let them board first. Yeah. Yes.
Why do sons always wear orange?
Ah. Why do sons always wear orange? Well, first of all, it looks like orange. You're absolutely right. But traditionally, it's what we think of as a saffron color. So, yes, different shades. Some shades are more orangey, some shades are more pinky. But traditionally, the color is the color of saffron. Now, what else do you know in life that is that same color?
Sun.
Sun, absolutely. The sun, when the sun rises, when the sun sets, looks like this in the sky, right? Now, the sun shines and shines and shines on everyone, right? Gives sunlight to everyone. It's not that the sun shines on Sajjan but not on you, right? The sun is there, you both get it. And not just you two. Sun shines on your neighbors also, right? Sun shines on you both, but also people of other religions. So it's not just, oh, the sun shines on the Hindu house, but not on the Muslim house, or the Christian house, or the Jewish house. Sunny day, sun shines for everybody, right? Sun shines for the rich people, the poor people, pretty people, not so pretty people. Right? Sun shines for everybody. No discrimination. Does the sun ever take a vacation? No, right? Always on. It's dark here now, but call your friends in California. Sun is on. So with no discrimination, no vacation, does the sun want anything back from us? Do we have to pay some dues? Do your parents pay some dues to the sun? Right? Amazing. Nothing. Asks nothing of us, which is amazing. So when we take our vows of sannyas, one of the vows is a vow that we will serve, that we will give, like the sun, with no discrimination, for all people only, or not only all people, but all beings, flowers and trees and animals, and children who aren't even born yet, just like the sun. We do have to sleep though, but otherwise just like the sun, to give and to give and to give. What's the other thing that you know that's this color? What do we do every morning here? Don't give him the answer. No hints. This morning you sat with us. You sat with Pujya Swamiji and myself. What did we do in the morning? Remember? We sat just out there. What did we do?
Havan. Havan.
Yeah, we did the havan. What is the havan? What was right there in the middle of us?
Puja.
But what was the big thing in the middle of us? Between you and me, what was there?
Fire.
Right. You're sure about that, right? It wasn't like a well of water, not a swimming pool. Definitely fire, right? Right. So what color is fire?
Orange.
Right? Same color. Now, fire purifies. If you're walking barefoot and you get a little splinter in your foot and mom or dad needs to take it out, they're going to take a little needle or maybe some tweezers. But before they put that needle or tweezers on your foot, do you know what they're going to do?
Put it in fire.
I'm sorry?
Put it in fire.
Put it in fire, exactly. Exactly. In the days before everybody had little disposable alcohol swabs with them, you just light a match, you put it in the fire for 30 seconds, sterile, it's clean. Otherwise, if they put it in your foot, you'll get bacteria. Then you get an infection, which is worse than the splinter. So they'll always put it in fire, it purifies it. So this color is the color of fire. And it's a color that reminds us to purify not just our needles and our tweezers, but to purify our minds. Because sometimes in our minds we get angry, right? Do you ever get angry?
A lot.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. Whenever you get angry, you say, oh yeah, I'm human. That's right. Sometimes we get angry, sometimes we get frustrated, sometimes we get greedy, like we already ate our cookie, but now we want Sajjan's cookie also, right? It happens, it's human. Sometimes we feel jealous. Sometimes all these things happen in the mind. And those are things that hurt in our mind, right? It doesn't feel good to feel angry or jealous or frustrated, right? Does your mind feel happy when you're angry? No, right? It doesn't feel good at all. And so, just like the bacteria on the needle or the tweezers can cause an infection, all of these things in our mind, they cause like a spiritual infection in us, a mental infection. Body is okay, but mind gets sick. So the fire reminds us, oh yeah, purify my mind. Take away my anger, take away my frustration, take away my jealousy, take away my greed. So when we wear this color, it reminds us, oh yeah, think pure, live pure, act pure. So every time you look down and you see it, you remember purity. That's why. Does that make sense? Oh, good. Okay. Yes, last question. Come.
Thanks. Hi, Sadhviji. My name is Vishwanath Sharma. I'm from Delhi. A follow-up question on the
Can you
destiny.
speak just a little bit more into the mic so we can hear you?
Sorry, yeah. My name is Vishwanath Sharma. I'm from Delhi. A follow-up question on the answer that you were giving earlier, that Swamiji had a heart attack and he was near the hospital, and somebody who didn't, was not near the hospital. So would we say that it's destiny as well that, brought them at that place at that time, and it's not really maybe the karmas that they would have done in their past lives?
Okay, destiny and karma. Destiny is made up of karma. Yes, that which happens is destiny, absolutely. But destiny does not come out of nowhere. It's not that your destiny was like, if you've ever seen when they play the lotto, right? And they have one of those big mechanical things and it's got balls in it sometimes, right, on the game shows, and it spins around, and then you've got some fancy dressed lady who pulls little balls out of the machine, and she says, 17, and puts it up, and it spins again, and then she says, 33. And destiny's not like that. It's not random. It's not like you're spinning some wheel and the balls are falling around, rich and poor and sick and healthy and happy and miserable, and then you just get one. It's not like that. Your destiny is made up of your karma. Your karma, your actions create your destiny. So that which you've done in past lives contributes a huge amount to your destiny in this life. But it doesn't determine it entirely, because your karma in this life also contributes in a major way. Your destiny from your past life gives you what you can think of as the stage setting, right? When you think about Leela, the divine Leela, the divine drama, well, there's a stage. There's a stage setting. Where are you going to be born? What family will you be born into? What will be the circumstances of your early life? Will you be born in a family of means, of privilege, of opportunity, of love, of education, of culture? Or will you be born in a family that's poor or with other challenges or trauma? It's not about good and bad. It's not rewards and punishments. But it's your actions from your past birth determine what your next steps closer to the divine are going to be, and where they will be taken in the most conducive way. So we come into this world based on what you can think of as pap and punya,
Debits and credits.
ill deeds and good deeds from our past birth, that will put us into situations, again, not rewards and punishments, because out of trouble, a lot of people blossom easy, sheltered upbringings in a lot of ways, who are actually suffering very deeply because they never learned so many of life's important lessons. So it's not rewards and punishments, but it's what situation is going to give you the lessons you need. So that's your stage setting. That's the role you play. That's your costume. But then from that, it's improv. It's not a pre-scripted drama. It's an improv, right? In improv, they tell you, here's where you are, here's your role, here's what happened before it, now go. So we come in, we've got a destiny that has given us where we're born, what our circumstances are, what our physical body is. And then we improv.
But how do we identify what we are destined to do or what we should be doing and how?
You identify your destiny by first identifying yourself. When you know deeply who you are and you're able to access what we call intuition or your inner voice or that divine connection, you'll know what to do. You don't need to know the final destination right now. You just need to know which way to turn. It's like the GPS in our cars these days. They'll tell you right turn, left turn. You don't need to know what you're doing 10 steps ahead, because you know that this GPS is going to take you where you want to go.
So your happy hour of spirituality will help
I'm sorry?
Your happy hour of spirituality, of anybody who's doing a happy hour of spirituality every day and connecting with himself, will that, help in identifying this?
Absolutely. Spirituality is the only way to identify. And whether your daily spiritual practice is joining in Ganga Arati and prayers and chanting, meditation, japa, seva, ideally it should be some combination of all of that. Reading of scriptures, contemplating, introspecting. All of that shows you who you are. And then you know which way to turn. And again, you may not know 10 steps ahead, but you just know right here, right now, I need to turn this way. Why? I don't know. But this is where the divine is leading me. But you got to be careful. Because sometimes that voice is ego, sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's desire, sometimes it's somebody else's voice that we've internalized. I had so many people saying to me, what are you doing, wasting your life? Right? If I internalized those voices, I wouldn't be here.
You should be in the movies.
So right. Get a job, establish yourself, do this, make a lot of money, then you go. So many voices. So we internalize those voices sometimes. And then we make decisions that are not actually our dharma, but that are the decisions that other people would make or think they would make because they don't actually know, because they haven't had the experiences we've had. But the projections that other people put on us of what they think they would do if they were in our shoes. So you got to be really clear that the voice you're hearing is a voice of introspection. Voice of intuition. And the best way of knowing that is your meditation, is your prayer, is your japa, is your introspection, your contemplation. And then you get to know that voice. And then you find your destiny. We don't all know it. When I decided to stay here 28 years ago, I had no idea I was going to take sannyas. I had no idea I was going to be doing spiritual teaching. I'll tell you, all I wanted to do when I first came here, Pujya Swamiji used to sit inside. He didn't at that time have this beautiful jopuri hut that he sits in now. He used to sit inside, and he would meet people for darshan. If the weather was nice, he would sit outside, just on the grass. But when he sat inside the room, he had a little ganti, a little bell right next to him. And he'd be talking to people, and every once in a while, he'd ring the bell. And within 5 seconds, one of these sweet young men would run in. And I didn't speak Hindi at the time, but Swamiji would say something in Hindi. And a moment or two later, the young man would come back with a whole variety of things. Maybe it was just a glass of water. Maybe it was a sacred Rudraksh bead to give somebody. Maybe it was a mala. Maybe it was a handkerchief because somebody was crying. Maybe it was to take somebody to get a key to a room. Whatever it was, Swamiji would ring the bell and this guy would run in. My highest aim, highest aspiration, now I was a PhD student when I came here. I had graduated from Stanford. I was in the middle of getting a PhD. My highest aspiration was to be that boy. I spent every minute trying to figure out, how can I get that job? Really, I mean, like, I dreamed about being the one who Swamiji rang the bell, and I was like, yes, yes, yes. And I say that because I didn't know my destiny was teaching. I didn't even know how to run my own life, let alone help anybody else. All I wanted was, please trust me enough that you ring the bell and I will be the one who will show up. But what I was able to do was listen with each step along the way to that voice. And sometimes the voice came literally from Pujya Swamiji telling me to do something. Sometimes it came from within. But it was step by step. He never said to me, oh, by the way, here's what it's going to look like. I never would have believed him. I might have run away. I might have thought he was deluded. Never would have stayed. Step by step. Step by step. First thing he said to me, when my first conversation with him about seva was, he asked me, he said, can you type? I was a PhD student. I was like, yeah, of course I can type. Spent years doing his correspondence. It's step by step. Don't worry about what your ultimate destiny is. Worry simply about, in this moment, what is the universe asking of me? In this moment, what is my highest yes? How can I say yes to this moment? Not what feels the biggest, not what's going to get me the most acclaim, not what's going to make me the most money, but just how can I say yes to what the universe has offered me in this moment? And you just take it moment by moment, moment by moment. How can I be free of the fear, of the desire, of the greed, of the conditioning, so that I can just say yes to the universe in this moment? And your destiny will take care of itself.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We'll take your questions tomorrow. We're gonna bring satsang to a close. But I hope that you all have a beautiful rest of your evening. And be sure, if you are here tomorrow as well and for days afterwards, please be sure to also take advantage of all of the beautiful offerings that we have every day here at the ashram. Yoga classes and meditation classes and philosophy classes and a beautiful morning fire ceremony right out here. It's a beautiful and very powerful way of filling you with a lot of different ways of being touched. And don't worry if you're staying in the ashram or not in the ashram. Everything is open to everyone. There's no charge for anything. So take advantage of all of it. And I look so forward to being together again tomorrow in satsang. And so much love to you all.